have a really serious talk today. I have some important things to tell you, but first I have to ask you a couple of questions. So, why did St. Patrick drive the snakes out of Ireland? It was too far to walk. All right. Why do people wear shamrocks on St. Patrick's Day?
Good luck.
No, because real rocks are too heavy. Okay. Why do leprechauns hate running? Because they like to jig, not jog. Right? Okay. That's it. So that's for the joke telling. I'm done.
No, more.
Didn't even know. Yes, I did have a longer list, but I have to spare you. And so St. Patrick's Day is just about fun. It doesn't matter what its origins were. It's just a day for us to have some fun. And it doesn't matter if you're Irish. Everybody gets to wear green or, just do a little bit of fun stuff today. Have a little nonsense in our lives and a few tasty snacks. That reminds me, there's some more food in the refrigerator in case anyone gets to the table first. We don't want to leave it. That's like kind of how I run parties at my house. Oh, wait, I forgot. So, I have to say, even though I am among the millions of partly Irish Americans, I didn't know anything about Ireland when I was growing up, except for what I learned watching Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Has anybody seen that movie? Oh, it's got a lot of leprechauns in it, and it's got wishes in it too. It's kind of a fun movie. It's old, of course, but what can go wrong with leprechauns and wishes, right? So if you get a chance to watch it, I recommend it. Not for really little kids, because I was scared when I saw it as a child. But anyway, I'm not going to spoil the plot of Darby O'Gill, because I know you're all going to watch it this week. But I am going to tell you another story about wishes, because there's so many stories, through like all time about getting a magic wish. So, once upon a time, there was a poor woodcutter who was searching for a tree to cut down so he could make some money. And he finally found one tree that looked just right. Not too big for him and not too small to be worthless. And just as he raised his axe, a little leprechaun came out and said, "Stop! Please don't chop down my home." Well, the woodcutter explained why he needed to do it. So the leprechaun said, "If you leave my tree alone, I will give you 3 wishes." Oh, well, woodcutter agreed to that. And so he went home and he told his wife all about it. And his wife said, "That is ridiculous." What a story. Tomorrow morning you're going back and cutting down that tree. Then she gave him a bowl of broth that she had made for their dinner. And he took one look at it and he sighed, "Oh, plain broth again. I wish we had some sausages." Suddenly, 2 sausages appeared on the table and he was so happy. He said, "Oh, look, my wish worked." And his wife said, "Yeah, but you wasted it on sausages." Well, that made the woodcutter so angry. He said, "Well, I wish those sausages were on your nose." Guess what happened? The sausages were stuck to her nose, and they tried everything to get the sausages off her nose, and they couldn't do it at all. And finally, the woodcutter said, my third wish is, I wish the sausages were off of my wife's nose. And magically, there were the sausages right back on the table, leaving the woodcutter and his wife no better off, except maybe a little bit wiser. And they did have 2 nice sausages to go in their soup. So, all these stories about getting 3 magic wishes, the moral is always the same, right? Be careful what you wish for. Don't be a silly fool. Think about it. And really, that's super similar to what we teach here every single week. Be conscious of what you are thinking, because your thoughts are creative. So I want to share another story, not a silly one, but it's another aspect of working with our wishes or our desires. In the New Testament, there's a story about Jesus visiting the pool of Bethesda, where it was said that people would go there because regularly an angel would visit the pool and stir up the water, and then whoever stepped into the pool first would be healed. So the story goes that Jesus went there and he saw a man lying near the side of the pool who actually had been coming there for years, waiting for his turn. And Jesus said to this man, "Do you want to be made well?" And the man answered, "Well, I don't have anyone to help me into the water, so someone else always steps into the water before me." And Jesus said, "Well, take up your bed and walk." And the man did. But this part I want us to pay attention to today is, think about how when Jesus is said to have asked him, "Do you want to be healed?" the man just answered by telling Jesus the reasons why he could not be healed. He didn't even say yes or no. Instead, he basically said, "Well, I can't be healed. I have a problem." He was believing, he had an assumption that he could only be healed in one particular way, and that way wasn't possible for him. So when the story goes on that Jesus' next words were, "Get up and walk," I have to assume there might have been maybe a little more dialogue between, do you want to be healed, get up and walk. But anyway, the man did it. That's what we're talking about when we say, I believe, heal my unbelief, Same idea. The man in the story had come to accept that healing without letting his limiting ideas get in the way. He did have a desire, a wish to be healed, but he first had to let go of his unbelief. He had to let go and get out of his own way. So, you know what a wish is, right? I mean, people have made wishes and had desires forever, I'm sure. Where do they come from? How do we get inspired to have a wish, Honestly, sometimes I see something on TV and an advertisement, I'm like, oh, I wish I could have that too, right? That sounds good. Or you know, I see something someone else is wearing, like, oh, I wish I had something like that. Or, you know, we have ideas handed down to us by our parents. You ought to do this, you ought to have that. And these can be sources of our wishes, or maybe we look at a movie star or some celebrity and we wish we could have some attribute that they have. But I want us to think about our deepest desires, not something that is really kind of innately ours, something that is our very deepest wish, our deepest desire. And I want to ask you, have you let your deepest desires get drowned out by your day-to-day life? By the day-to-day hubbub and busyness of what's going on around us? If so, then now's the perfect time to take charge of your thoughts. We do have the ability to let go of the distractions around us and listen to that stillness within and allow our imaginations to guide us into a higher level or a deeper level of self-knowledge and awareness. So, you know, we talk sometimes about something that we call divine discontent, where, yeah, it seems like everything's fine, but we just know there's something more. So we just want change. Obviously, if we're sick, we usually want to be well, right? If we're poor, then we're usually looking for financial security. If we're lonely, we would usually like to have companions. And I use the word usually because sometimes there's an underlying challenge or assumption that we need to work through first. Just like the man who was waiting to be healed, but before he could be healed, he needed to let go of that assumption that he couldn't get well because he couldn't walk, and he couldn't walk to a pool, and therefore he couldn't get well, and it was like this circular thinking. You might have heard someone say, I'm pretty sure you've heard someone say, well, I'm too old to do such and such. Or, in this room, we might have heard someone say, I'm too young to do such and such. Could be. But we have these assumptions. So I recently read about a woman in Japan. She's 108 years old, and she's still a barber. She still has customers who come to her and she cuts their hair. So, I mean, maybe that's not your greatest desire, or maybe it is. But the thing is, first, you have to let go of that assumption that can keep you from your good. And so if we just step back to the fundamental, one of the fundamental principles that we teach in Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes said, in trying to distill our teaching, one of the things he said was, we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. So we don't believe in fate, we don't believe in predestination, but we do believe that we are destined to move forward on what I think of as a spiritual journey through life. Because your soul's eternal expansion is already underway now. And we live in the now. And so it might seem that we have one foot in the material realm and one foot in the spiritual realm. But in reality, there's only one thing. It's life. It just manifests in so many different ways. It seems like there's two things going on. And actually, sometimes that makes it easier for us to visualize for ourselves what we would like to experience in our everyday existence, to think about it that way. But this one thing, spirit, takes many forms. Spirit, or life, is actually goodness in expansion. It's true overall. And so, because of this, it's also true that each one of us has an innate ability to influence how our lives play out. So, one story that I really love, it was about taking a little boy to a seafood restaurant and telling him he could have whatever he wanted. And so he said, oh, well then I'll have a whale. Did you ever think of going to a restaurant and ordering up a whale? No, probably not. But actually, I don't know about you, but I have been to restaurants many, many times where I don't even order what it is I really want. You know, if everybody else is having a salad, I'll order a salad too. And maybe what I really wanted was cheesecake, right? You know, or the opposite. Everyone was ordering cheesecake, but I really wanted a salad, right? I just go along and get along. We are all the time making choices. And a lot of times we're just making, I'm not going to say silly choices like a sausage on your nose, but, you know, not really meaningful, not really getting in touch with our deepest desires. Like cheesecake, yeah. I don't know. But just think about it. How many times have you been influenced by others or by those old voices in your head that say, don't overstep, don't reach out too far, you shouldn't do this or that, you know, or been influenced by the need to please other people, when really you're kind of wishing, unconsciously or consciously, that you maybe could have done something else entirely. And so we often say that spirit only says yes, that spirit only gives us what we're thinking about, whether it's conscious or unconscious, without any judgment on the part of spirit. That's not the nature of spirit. Spirit's always unfolding, and we just have this amazing capacity to make choices. But a lot of times our choices are unconscious. But really, we do get to decide. So, how do we get in touch with our deeper wishes? So, I have a little exercise that I thought we could do together. So, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions a few times. This is a little bit like, suppose you got a big box delivered, and you open the box, and then there was another box inside, and you open the box, and there was another box inside, and you open the box. It's a very simple little exercise. So if you want to close your eyes, that usually helps me with my imagination, but you don't have to. So the first question, don't overthink it, is what are you wishing for? Anything, whatever pops into your mind. Any type of sort of positive wishes, great to work with. What are you wishing for? A pair of shoes? A new house? Money in the bank? A letter from a friend? A vacation? Better health? Whatever it is, just let it pop in your mind. It doesn't have to be your perfect wish. Just notice it. Notice this wish. Second question, how would you feel if this wish came true? How would you feel if this wish came true? Would you feel happier, healthier, richer, smarter, more confident, successful, livelier? Or would you feel something else? When I tried this on myself, I came up with new shoes, and my feeling was, oh, I have too many shoes. I need to get more organized. So that brings me to the next question. Now what do you wish? Is there something about your first wish that has led you to another wish? If your first wish was perfect, that's great. If you've got another wish that's coming up for you, what is your new wish? What is your deeper wish? Whatever pops into your mind is fine. Now think of this wish and then ask yourself, how would I feel if this wish came true? This new wish, how would it make me feel if I experienced this wish? Would I feel more loving, more love, happier, more overwhelmed? What would the emotion be? Whatever it is, it's fine. Some of us might be like thinking, oh, this wish, well, if I said I want to be organized, but actually what I want to do is have more time. So that brings me to your third wish. Do you have a third wish? A deeper wish? Just allow that third wish to emerge for you. What would your next wish be? What is your deeper wish? Just allow that to bubble up for you. And now ask yourself the next question, how would it make me feel? How would you feel if you actually had this third wish come true? If I could wave a magic wand and you had your wish come true, how would you feel? Does it put a smile on your lips to think of this wish coming true? Does it make you happy? Does the emotion you are feeling validate that this might be your deepest wish? Okay, now I'm going to invite everyone to open your eyes. Think about it. I'm just giving you a spiritual practice that you can do because you can work through it, and if you don't feel like that was your deepest wish, you can do it at home. Maybe when I did it myself, I had to go through like 6 scenarios maybe before I got to my deepest wish, which was very unexpected. So I went, I'll just tell you mine so you have an idea. I went from I want a new pair of shoes to, oh, I want to spend some time writing poetry. So you keep opening the box and you don't know where you'll get. So you just allow the process. And tomorrow I could do the same thing and end up in a totally different deepest wish. It's fine. It's just some way to help us go deeper. To begin to get in touch with what we would consciously choose if we could let go of all the assumptions that generally influence us from day to day. So, this works because, it works. It doesn't just work in order to get in touch with your wishes, But it works in a higher level because when we do bring into our consciousness this idea of what our good truly is, suddenly it's like a pin on a map. And that's where we're headed on our journey. So that's a way to know what you wish for, bring it into your actual consciousness, and then you will find that it creates a destination just on its own, just knowing that. It's just like if I'm driving my car randomly around, I'm not going to get to Cleveland if that's where I don't know I want to go, right? Or whatever. You know, you've got to know where you want to go if you ever want to get there. That's why we call it creating a tendencies in our lives. In some cases, you can have an instantaneous, what we call healing or changing of conditions. In other cases, it might be a while. I mean, obviously mine, if I want to write poetry, I can go home this afternoon and get out a pen and paper. That's instantaneous. Other things, maybe it will be a while. That's fine. There's no problem with that. We set the direction in which we are headed through our conscious decisions as we get clear about our deepest desires, our wishes, because getting clear about our wishes is important because nobody wants to end up with sausages on our nose. And so it is, that's it. So, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.